Hello everybody, so today we're back on to the next instalment of the 1200 repair. So if you saw the introduction I did back in January, you will have seen this part of it. And it is an oily, leaky, there's leaks all over it, so I'm hoping to try and stop some of those leaks. So after I finished recording that video, that same day I actually discovered the biggest cause of the leak, and it was a sump. Okay, so the engine sump is leaking, and the sump plug here is, the thread in there is stripped out, so that just turns, it doesn't do up tight. So what we're going to do today, we're going to drop the oil out, we're going to take the sump off, and we're going to have a proper look at the actual leak. The biggest issue with this sump is it's cast aluminium, so I can't mend it, I can't weld aluminium. That needs to go off. Hopefully I know of a company that will do it for me. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to disconnect the battery to make sure it doesn't get started while there's no oil in, and then we will drop the oil out and investigate what actually involves taking the sump off. It's under this panel underneath the cab between the wheels, so I took the wing nut off, so we'll just swing the door open. Okay, so what we need to do is, so we'll just whip these terminals off to make sure that it can't be started with no oil in there. Let's see if there's actually any thread left on this at all. Right, so to drop the sump off, there's a ring of bolts all the way around the edge. So what we've got to do is undo all those, and then it'll just come off nice and simple, just like that. So here's the sump, it's off, we've cleaned it all up. Now I didn't show you it dirty because it was a bit messy. So here we can see where it's been repaired before with some kind of JB weld or chemical metal or some sort. You can see they've obviously cleaned this black oil scaly stuff off to make it stick properly, and I assume this is all cracks under all this, but it's clearly not working. So that's inside, and also you can see outside was done with the same stuff and all smeared up the side there. I mean, here is our other problem. I'm not sure if you can see in there, focusing, if it's focusing, but all that thread in there is stripped out. The plug is good. On the plug was this copper washer, a Doughty washer, like a bonded sealed hydraulic washer, and white tape all on there to try and stop it leaking, but that was leaking as well. So I'm not going to take this, whatever it is, this resiny stuff, I'm going to leave it on there for the welders. They can then do what they need to with it. I'm not going to fiddle with it, I'm just going to take it to them as it is, because they'll be experiencing this kind of thing and they'll know what to do. Right, so I'm going to take this off to the welders now, just drop it off for them, and they can do whatever they can with it. So I can't film any of that obviously because I'm not going to be there. So hopefully next time we see this it will be repaired somehow. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but if not, we might have to go for plan B, so we'll see what happens. So the sump has now come back from the welders. It's all repaired, they've done a very nice job. Let's just take a look at it. So if you remember what we saw just a minute ago, on the bottom, so this is upside down now, and there was all those lines of the resin, whatever. So what they did, they ground all that off, and they decided it was too bad to weld up. So what they've done, they have plated the whole of the bottom of the sump. They've put on a new plate, welded right the way around, so that is new material. Okay, so if we go inside, you can see when they ground all the stuff off, the cracks are going all ways and into this section here and all round, and you can still see the cracks there. In order to do a proper job, they just plated it and welded all the way around to get a nice oil tight seal, so that's not going to leak. And also remember the sump plug was stripped out. Inside that hole they've put a little round bit of aluminium up in through the hole and then welded around and around and around to block that off. And because this sump had 3, so that was where the original one was. Here at the front there was like a place you could drill, or exactly opposite there was another, like a port cast into it. So what they've done, they've machined that bit flat and drilled and tapped in, so we can use the existing plug into a new thread, and that's a good tight fit. So they've just tapped that out. So all that's done now is just transferred the drain plug to the other side, which is no problem at all, but it's nice and it's not going to leak, and it will do up tight and be a good fit. What's left to do now, this is dusty where they've been grinding. It all needs cleaning up properly because we don't want that dust going in the engine. So what we'll do, we'll clean it up properly and we'll put some paint on it while it's off. So next time you see it, this will all be nice shiny paint. Okay, so here's the sump all finally painted. We've got a nice bit of grey on there. I'm happy with that. So what we'll do, we'll flip it over and check the gasket for lining up around the holes. And as you can see, it's not a great fit. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to recut the holes, because we're never going to get bolts up through and catching in to the block like that, because when we're lined up this end, the far end is nowhere near. So the easiest way to cut a gasket, even if you just had a sheet of paper and wanted to cut out the shape and the holes, just take a little tiny ball peen hammer, that's the one with the roundy back end, and line your gasket up, and just gently with the rounded end tap around. You get that little, because this is a sharp hole underneath, it will cut the gasket against the hole of the part, and just pop that little off cut. So there's a little bit we've took out, and then we just pop a bolt in, because we're working our way around, putting a bolt in every hole just to keep them right as we go on round. So this is our gasket now. We have got all the holes to line up. We had some excess, you can see where the holes were. So we've cut the excess from this end, because this is the back of the sump. So tight here is the flywheel housing, so there was no room for any spare gasket. And also the 2 central holes at either end are studs, so the studs are still in the block, because this is where the crankshaft runs, obviously, so they weren't bolted in. There's studs and nuts, so that's why there's no bolts there, but the holes do line up. So as is typical, once I'd done all this, got all the holes to line up and trim this excess off, I actually looked back in the packet of gaskets, and there was another one split in 2 here, so it was 2 halves, and that did actually line up better. So after I'd spent all my time making this fit, I found one that fitted, but it was split here both ends, and what I've taken off is a complete gasket like this. So I think I'm going to put the complete gasket on rather than having the split here, and so that this will be all right. So the next stage is, what we'll do, we'll take this off, put a little bit of gasket sealer around the sump to kind of stick this in place as much as anything, and then we can hold our holes in line. They will stay where we need them to stay without the bolts in, and then we can just put a little bit more sealer around the top, just a little smear, and then we can put the sump up onto the block, put all the bolts in, and then put the dipstick back in, and we shall be nearly finished. Right, so we're now underneath the tractor looking up into the engine just before the sump goes on. So I'm trying to keep the daylight out, because we have got some sunshine today, but we're looking up towards the sky, which is unfortunate. But there's the engine. There's the oil pickup strainer. The pipe there feeds into the oil pump, which is that bit in the centre there, and on the back of that is the pressure relief valve for the oil system. Just up there is the oil filter. We will put a new one on in a minute. I've had to take it off just to clean around the old gasket up here. So what we'll do now, we'll just run around the gasket face with some paint thinners just to clean it off. It is a little bit greasy, oily, because we want our gasket to stick nicely. So we'll just rub around there, just some ordinary paint thinners, and then we will go and stick the gasket to the sump, and then bring the sump in and put it up, hopefully with extra hands for that, because it's not going to be the easiest thing. So I've already taken all the old gasket off. We're just rubbing some thinners around just to get all the oil off. We're not actually cleaning any gasket paper off because that's all gone. I'm just making a clean, grease-free surface to keep the leaks down. Right, so we're back to the sump with the gasket on again now. So what I'll do, we will remove the gasket carefully and apply just a very thin layer of gasket sealer around the edge to help stick the gasket into place, and that will then line the holes up and stop it moving while we are positioning. So just put a thin bead and spread it evenly, because we don't want to wait. We don't need a lot. We don't want to waste it.
Right. Action.
Right, so we've got sealant on, gasket on, sealant again. Next stage, we will go and attach it to the engine, or we'll put the camera underneath and hopefully we can pick it up, but I'm not sure whether it's going to work, but we'll give it a go. This is not very heavy.
No. When you get it up, I can probably sort of clamp it this side.
Is that up flat?
Yeah.
Flush?
I've got this side held up, but we're in.
Yeah, right. Might go for a bolt first with a hole I can see. Right, the back corner is caught. No, he won't fall off. Alright, so all the bolts and the nuts front and back are all fitted all the way around now. We just got to tighten them up, you know, in a circular motion so as we don't crack anything. Right, so here we go, all tight. Next job, we've got to replace the oil filter. But before we do that, here you can see this part here is an oil cooler. You can see the flow and return pipes up to a radiator in front of the van. So what that is, that's part of the turbo kit to keep the oil, to cool the engine oil, because when the turbo makes it all run a bit hotter. But before we put the new filter on, that nut in the centre there is a little bit loose, so we need to get a spanner and just tighten that up, and then we will put the new filter back on. Right, so new filter. We fill the filter up with oil first so that we don't starve the engine. We don't want to have to wait for the oil pump to fill the filter before it circulates around the engine, so we fill it up first, and we just have a little bit of oil around the sealing ring, otherwise it will not come undone next time when we want to change it. It won't go up so easily now, and it won't come undone when we want to change it. So we just put a little film around there. Some oil filters on some engines are horizontal, this one's sitting vertical. It's a little bit easier to screw them on. The horizontal ones often, by the time you've got the screw caught, some of the oil you've put in is drained out. But so it just goes up. We just do hand tight. We don't need a tool to tighten it. If you over tighten them, you can damage the thread. So hand tight is plenty. And then what we will do, we will mark the filter with the hours worked. Do that don't do that before you screw it on, because it might end up at the back. So do it on once it's tight, just scratch or write the hours onto it, and you'll know when it's due for changing again. So next job, replace the dipstick back into the threaded hole there. So we've got the dipstick tube that it sits in, just screws in. And then we just tighten with a spanner just where the end of the tube is in a comfortable position, past clearing this pipe, and then dipstick sits in nice and easily. So part of the turbo kit when they fitted it is this, they put a secondary oil filter in the line. So this is the oil pressure feed coming from around the far side of the engine, and this is actually tapped into the oil gauge takeoff, so the gauge that goes up to the cab. This is teed into that, so it comes round into a separate filter and then feeds up into the top of the turbo. Now I don't know why they put a secondary filter on. I'm sure if somebody I'm sure if a viewer knows, they will put a comment, because nowadays, all turbo engines now, they just have the same filter as the rest of the engine. But this is an Alpico kit, and I know TB Turbo, they were like the other main company, they put secondary filters on as well. So back in the 70s and 80s, there must have been a reason for doing it, but I'm not aware of it, but maybe somebody can put a comment down below. So what we'll do, we'll just, same as the other one, we'll just whip it off, put a filled up filter on there, and then we'll just fill the sump up and we're ready to go. So we'll just use one of these chain filter wrench strap thingies to just undo it. There is a drain catch thingy on the floor, oil catch pan on the floor, so we're just going to get a little weep come out. Right, so same as the main filter, we filled it up with oil. We'll just do a little smear around the seal. Now it's actually, when I ordered the filters for doing this tractor, I didn't check the size of the thread in this one, and I bought the wrong size, so I've had to wait a week for a new one to come, but I've got the right one now. So it's a little tip for you. So if you change the filters on a tractor for the first time, you've never done before, just check what you've got, don't guess it, because it doesn't work out. So same as the other one, we'll just do them up hand tight, there's no need to go crazy. So this here is the filler for putting the oil in. It's very tight on that turbo pipe there. So, I mean, no, a standard one would be farther back in. You can see it's had a bit welded in to bring it past all this pipe work. But that's where the oil goes in. So we'll get our funnel. So funnel in, just pour straight in. So this is just 10W30 oil. Right, so we've got 3 jugfuls in now, so we'll check the dipstick. So with clean oil never shows up, but we're just above, I think we're above maximum. It does take a little while for it all to run down and settle. I think we're a little bit, don't mind being a little bit high on startup, because we've got to fill the oil cooler anyway. Yeah, we're a little bit above maximum, so we'll take that. Right, so here it goes, the first start in way too long, probably 3 months. Let's see if see how we get on. Battery's on, oil's in. So we're just going a little road test, make sure we're all alright. Right, so that's brought us to the end of the video. So we've just been up and down the lane and back. Everything seems fine. We don't appear to have any leaks anywhere. Our filters are dry. So you just basically just check them afterwards in case they're weeping a bit. You can just give them a little bit of a tweak. But they're both fine. Our dipstick reading has dropped back to normal now because we were a little bit overfilled. And there is no leaks at the moment. So we haven't got it hot yet. So when the springtime comes round, we'll put some work into it, get everything up to temperature, and check again for leaks then. But other than that, I think that's it. So I'll say thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.